because when I was a young engineer, we work out the arsenal on weekends for no money.
For Kenny Mitchell, the space program is in his blood. He's a charter member of Marshall Space Flight Center, joining on his 18th birthday in 1959 as a co-op student at Auburn University.
And everything was unair conditioned, so all the paper was sticking to you. You know, just had a can-do. Yes, we can.
He brought that can-do attitude with him every day of his 40-year career as an engineer with NASA. His work spanned every program from Saturn to Skylab to the ISS and SLS, and he's also a bit of a pack rat.
This is the upstairs of part of my museum of records, and I have 3-4 more rooms I'll show you.
Okay, a bit maybe an understatement.
This is the second office, and it's a little more crowded.
Room after room of a lifetime of memories and memorabilia.
This is all stamp collections and historical records.
Collected, categorized, and cataloged.
Tons of stuff.
His job gave him access to places and people that few had, and he wants to share it all to tell the amazing story of NASA through the years.
The 135 shuttle missions, I've got a picture of every crew, and a lot of them signed by the crew. I have thousands of astronaut signatures in these notebooks here. They're photos and mission.
We'll end up in the Library of Congress one day, right?
I hope that we have that library here.
And this is not just stuff. This is a collection of historical significance.
I tell my wife before she died, now if I die before you, don't sell this in a garage sale. It's really valuable stuff. And don't throw it away.
Much of Mitchell's collection is on display here at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, including a rare model of a Soviet N-1 rocket that he collected while a diplomat in the USSR. The N-1 was supposed to take Soviet cosmonauts to the moon, but failed on launch 4 out of 4 times before the Soviets gave up.
We love Kenny Mitchell here.
Rocket Center archivist Diane Brown recently went through Mitchell's treasure trove.
And so this is our overflow area,
More of which will soon be on display as we get closer to the Apollo 11 anniversary.
with everything to do with space history and pop culture, and we are so thankful and so excited that he's given all of that to us.
Now this is one I treasure.
His eyes still light up when he shows off his collection, but then I asked about his most prized possession, and there's a sudden shift in his otherwise jovial demeanor.
It's not here, and I'm a little concerned. I've got Yuri Gagarin's signature on the Phoenix.
Wow. Really? That's right, an original signature from the first man in space, currently lost in this space.
I have actually lost things, like right now I'm just trying to find, what did I do with that Gagarin letter, because that was so precious to me.
But this is a NASA engineer. Failure is not an option, and success is just 2 doors down and a little digging away.
Yeah, but this is Gagarin's original signature here, and another one is one of the space station signatures. So that's worth thousands.
Okay.
Just because of that.
Sure. Another crisis averted. The monetary value aside, Mitchell believes saving these small pieces of history allows us to piece together a bigger picture of what it was like to be part of history. Are you done collecting, or are you still?
I am. Can you believe it's like an alcoholic? I've had my last drink.
We are building the #1 ingredient to Jack Daniel's whiskey.
WAAY-31 got a rare look inside the Jack Daniel cooperage here in Trinity. Sacred ground for whiskey lovers, although it looks more like hell at times on the inside. Plant manager Daryl Davis and his team of 140 skilled technicians build these barrels. The wood works magic, slowly transforming clear, hard liquor into smooth, amber-colored Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey. The barrels are made, he says, with just 2 materials.
And that's American white oak and American craftsmanship.
The white oak is grown locally, much of it milled just 90 miles up the road in Stevenson. It's then trucked to the cooperage where it's dried.
And then it goes through a series of machining processes to get the staves and the heading material ready to be assembled, or what we call raising a barrel.
Much of the barrel making process is automated, but raising the barrel is too critical to be left to a machine. It's still a skilled, hands-on process.
Like I said, keep it nice and tight towards that bottom.
Taylor Howard's been with the company for 3 years. He sets the 32 staves in place. The critical 33rd locks them in place. How long did it take you to figure this out?
Hey, it's rough. Hey, you can't get on the first time. Yes, sir. It takes time, it takes repetition, but once you get a hold of it, it's just like going to bed.
You pretty much got an eye for it now.
Yes, sir.
They use no glue, no adhesives, no nails, and they can't make them fast enough.
We produce right at 1,200 barrels a day.
A day?
A day.
5 days a week.
5 days a week.
That's 6,000 barrels every week, and each barrel holds 53 gallons of Old Number 7.
A lot of whiskey.
Yep.
And you're looking to expand.
Yes.
Right now, the industry's explosive growth is hindered by the trade war. According to a report released last month by the Distilled Spirits Council, retaliatory tariffs in Canada, Mexico, China, and the European Union generated sobering numbers for American whiskey makers last year. Exports fell 8.7% in the last half of 2018 as tariffs kicked in.
While exports of American-made whiskey did take a hit late last year, the Distilled Spirits Council reported record sales domestically in 2018. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that shows no signs of drying up.
American whiskey sales in the States were up 6.6% to $3.6 billion. Jack Daniels and other distillers are projecting even stronger growth when the tariffs end, something Davis is expecting.
This facility was designed to expand based on business needs.
Meanwhile, back on the production line, steam and steel rings help form the familiar barrel shape. The heads of the barrel, the top and bottom, are cut and assembled. Then the inside of the barrel is toasted and charred to bring out the wood's natural sugars. This is where it truly becomes an ingredient in the whiskey.
This helps finish the caramelization of the wood to get the 100% of the color and up to 60% of that taste. This adds to that.
From there, the heads are pounded in place, 6 hoops are attached to hold it together, and the bunghole is cut. When the barrels pass the pressure test, they're trucked 75 miles to Lynchburg. 4 years later, these barrels will turn out the most popular American whiskey in the world, American-made from start to finish. And it couldn't happen without this cooperage.
It wouldn't be Jack without these barrels.
In 1961, Wernher von Braun and his team at Marshall Space Flight Center were finally ready to test the first version of their massive Saturn rocket. But just 40 miles downstream from Redstone Arsenal, a catastrophe right here at the locks of the Wheeler Dam threatened to put the entire Apollo program behind schedule.
It was a bad day, and it sure was.
Randy McCann is a retired TVA employee and part-time historian. He was 6 years old on that bad day, June 2nd, 1961. The day the walls of the only lock on Wheeler Dam suddenly collapsed.
Massive concrete blocks. They're like 8 by 8 by 16. They're 12 foot. They just jumbled up like Tinker Toys.
Within seconds, tons of concrete and steel that formed the lock for 26 years now blocked the only way through the dam. 375 miles of the Tennessee River was instantly cut off from barge traffic.
Major catastrophe. It affected river traffic immensely.
Overnight, shipping came to a halt. Nothing could get through. No farm goods, no manufactured products, no 75-ton rockets.
It was going to affect the moon blast launch program that was on, NASA had a real strict schedule.
NASA engineers at Marshall Space Flight Center were ready for their first test flight of the new Saturn rocket. But their only path to Cape Canaveral was now blocked, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Just 8 days before the lock failed, President Kennedy made a bold promise to the American people.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
At Redstone Arsenal, it was all hands on deck. Repairing the lock was not an option. That would take up to a year. So they teamed up with the TVA to come up with a plan to portage the rocket.
Less than 3 months, TVA mustered together the forces along with the Corps of Engineers, and they built these 2 docks to move the Saturn rocket, which was stranded above.
2 massive custom-built concrete structures. The upstream dock built in this small cove.
This cove or slough was dug out to make the water deep enough for this large vessel.
The downstream dock just on the other side of the dam.
I would expect they work 24/7.
TVA carved a new road through the forest a mile long to connect the docks. Then the rocket, on a huge flatbed trailer, was rolled onto its barge at Redstone and floated downstream to the first dock. There, it was offloaded, moved slowly along the new road to the other side of the dam, where it was wheeled onto the other barge to continue the trip to Florida. The date was August 5th, barely 2 months from the day the lock at Wheeler Dam failed.
Yeah, that was quite a feat.
It was. It would be difficult for us to do that quickly today, but it was an emergency effort.
An emergency effort that McCann says speaks to the space program as a whole. Failure was not an option.
A lot of dedicated people working on the whole Apollo program, and earlier the Gemini, that all came together.
The Tennessee Valley Authority has commemorated what happened here with these new markers. President Kennedy said back in 1961 when he spoke to Congress that it would take the entire country coming together to pull off the dream of sending a man to the moon and returning him safely to Earth. And what happened here nearly 60 years ago is proof that there was no obstacle too great to overcome on the road to achieving that goal. At Wheeler Dam, Dan Schaefer, WAAY 31 News.